You're listening to KZUU 90.7 FM Pullman. We're a broadcast service of the ASWSU. I'm your host, DJ Daisy. Welcome to episode 6 of What's New, Wazzu. Today I'm sitting beside the one and only Annabelle Pepin, a triple major academic weapon, director of hit sitcom College Hill, and my lovely girlfriend.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day. I know you're
Absolutely.
a very busy person.
Anything for you.
Wonderful. Well, I would love to sit down and interview you a little bit.
Totally.
This is my talk show where I interview students and staff about their majors in music. And you, my friend, are very involved here at WSU.
Thank you. I try.
Well, I'd love to dive into all of that.
Awesome.
I guess I would just like to mention in the beginning, it's finally snowing here in Pullman.
It is.
It's a beautiful winter wonderland, isn't it?
It is. It's a great day to have a great day.
Well said. Well said. Win the day, if you will.
Yeah, for sure.
How's your semester going so far with 3 majors?
It's good. It's a little heavy.
Yeah.
I spend most of my time in the books or editing something. But I don't know. I'd like to keep the mindset that I'm setting myself up for success in the future, and all the work I'm putting in now is eventually going to pay off. And if it doesn't, I'm still gaining life experience, so it doesn't matter.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, let's get started with one thing that you're involved in that I'm sure takes up a significant amount of your time, and that would be Greek life.
Okay.
I know you're a sorority sister of the AOPi.
I am.
What's it like being involved in Greek life here at WSU, and can you tell me a little about AOPi?
Totally. I definitely was much more involved when I started out at school. I'm a junior this year. And I was definitely way more involved my freshman year. I ended up diving right in. I was the vice president of community relations for my sorority, which essentially is running the social media, kind of keeping, I mean, it's in the name, but keeping good relationships with the Greek community, like other sorority chapters. I worked with our sisterhood chair who kind of put together, they're kind of like philanthropy events, but they're more of like bonding activities.
Okay.
So I helped out with that. Kind of trying to keep up the good name online, which is something that is definitely new for our culture because we've really shifted into the digital age.
Yeah.
So going through recruitment and everything, kind of the first thing you see is social media. So that was kind of a lot of pressure. But I enjoyed it. It was fun.
And you did that as a freshman?
Yes, I did that as a freshman, which meant part of our sorority was if you were a vice president, you had to live in the house. So I lived in my freshman year, which was kind of rare. I was super nervous. Kind of to backtrack a little bit, no one in my family went to college. The only sorority experience I had, like the prior knowledge I had of it, was some of my parents' friends and then a couple of my cousins. So I didn't really know what I was getting into. I was a little scared. But I went for it. There's a lot of stigmas against Greek life, which definitely have been upheld as I've kind of experienced it for myself. But I was really happy that I joined a chapter that really values diversity and inclusion. And I really wanted to go into college with a support system that was going to help me grow as an individual instead of trying to help me or maybe like influence me to be like everyone else. That was something I definitely feared going into a sorority because, as I said earlier, like the stigmas, everyone kind of looks the same or like talks the same, and I didn't really. Yeah. I kind of already had that phase of my life in high school. I didn't want to continue that. Yeah, so it's been fun, but there's definitely a lot of crazy things that go on, and not always crazy in a good way. So it was interesting. It was kind of a culture shock. I feel like I was pretty sheltered. I don't know. I wouldn't say pretty sheltered, but I was definitely less social in the ways that you can affiliate Greek life with.
Gotcha.
Growing up. So kind of being pushed into like the stereotypical college culture of going out and all that kind of stuff was crazy when I was young.
The weekends.
Young. I say young, but it was like 2 years ago. Freshman year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You are quite a bit different though than you were 2 years ago.
I have grown, and I think I have.
A lot in college.
Yeah, and I think I have Greek life to thank for that. Mostly the bad decisions that I've made.
Good learning lessons.
Yeah, I think I was able to really learn from some of the things I did and kind of figure out where my priorities lie.
Fair enough.
And the girls that I'm friends with are actually genuinely my friends. You know, I feel like I actually can go to anyone in the house and not feel like I'm going to be made fun of or anything, which I think is kind of the point of doing that, which I'm happy about. Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
And given your experience so far, would you recommend it to incoming freshmen to go Greek?
I think it would depend on the person.
Depends.
I think if I had been a little more secure in what I was passionate about, maybe I wouldn't have done it. But I kind of didn't know what I was going to be doing in college. I didn't know what route I wanted to go, so it was a really nice support system. But I feel like if you already have an idea of what you're going to do and you don't think that Greek life is going to help you get there, then I don't know if you're missing out on anything. But if you're looking for the social aspect and really good friends, then yeah, for sure.
Right on. Well, thank you for your take on WSU Greek life.
Totally.
I'm not involved in Greek life. I'm involved in Greek life only by extension through you.
Green flag. Just kidding.
But thank you.
Yeah.
Anyway, so like I mentioned in the beginning, you're a triple major. And when you were the social media kind of person for your sorority, that kind of fits in with your majors, doesn't it?
A little bit, yeah.
Can you tell me and the audience what your majors are?
Yeah, for sure. So I actually went into college doing political science. That was what I wanted to do. I wanted to go...
Really?
Yes, I wanted to go into immigration law, majoring in criminal justice, political science, and then incorporating Spanish into there somehow. Because I essentially wanted to help the people that can't get into our country through the legal system, because there's a lot of people that take advantage of people that can't speak English and are trying to gain citizenship, so I kind of wanted to be part of the change for that. And then I realized it was actually really boring to do, like, paperwork and stuff. And that was kind of over the summer between senior year of high school and freshman year of college. And my mom was like, well, the Edward R. Murrow College of Communications is one of the best on the West Coast. And, like, we're sending you to the school, and you're really talented visually. I think that it would be really fun if you just tried some communication classes. And if you really want to go back to the boring stuff of political science, then we fully support you. But
well, that's very nice of them.
Yeah, she was like, but I think I just feel like you would be so much better suited in a creative job. And, you know, I was like, okay, whatever. Okay, Mom, I'll declare. So I declared multimedia journalism as my original major, and I still have that today. And so I took 6 AP classes in high school. And so that carried over a lot of my credits. So I had the opportunity to graduate. I would have been graduating now, this December.
Wow.
But I was like, I don't want to do that. I want to have all 4 years of my college career. I want to have all 4 years of my college career. Because this is the only time in our lives that we're going to be able to experiment like this and have fun and go to
so many opportunities while you're here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I was like, I'm going to add another major. So I met with an English advisor because my freshman year I took a creative writing class with Jamie Flathers, who was your episode 5
previously
guest.
On the show. That's
she
right.
was awesome. And that really sparked something in me that I didn't know that I liked, which was, well, I always knew that I liked it, but I was always kind of afraid to really channel it. But writing is something that I've really been able to foster through college. But so I took an English class, met with an advisor, and I was like, hey, I really want to add a major. Is that possible? And she was like, yeah, totally. So I added rhetoric and professional writing. So that's my second degree. And then last semester, I found out that I could carry over a lot of the work I've done with multimedia journalism and add broadcast production. So that was my third major that I added.
Wow. So 3 majors and 2 degrees.
Yeah, so multimedia journalism and broadcast production are under the same major.
Okay.
Or same degree, sorry, which is journalism and media production.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a combination. Because the Murrow College only offers 2 degrees, I think. And it's that, and then something with strategic communications or something.
Gotcha.
And then English is rhetoric and professional writing, as I said. And that is basically you could use that degree to go into law. So, like, if I really wanted to go back into, like, a political science realm, I have all the tools to do that, yeah.
Nice.
Which is really nice. But rhetoric is... It was kind of something that I had to learn to love, I think. I just added it because I wanted to take writing classes, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do with it. I still don't, to be honest. But I don't know. It really has sparked something in me that I didn't know that I had, which is really cool.
Right on.
Yeah.
And you've become involved in a couple different things to kind of use those skills that you're learning in your classes. Mm-hmm. And one of them I know of is the Daily Evergreen.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about what the Daily Evergreen is and what your role as the opinion columnist was?
Yeah. So I worked for the Daily Evergreen, which was, well, it still is, but I worked there for about a year and a half, maybe.
Okay.
And I started my second semester of my freshman year as an opinion columnist. And so basically the process it's a student-led newspaper on campus. And it's in the Murrow College building, but anyone can write for them.
Anyone can join?
Yeah, like cool. If you have, that's one of the things that I really like about the organizations I'm a part of is that they're kind of catered toward the kids that really want to pursue whatever that is as a job. Like Daily Evergreen is a newspaper, so if they wanted to be columnists or something, it's catered to them.
But you don't have to have that passion to join.
No, and you don't have to even be like committed to a journalism degree at all. It doesn't matter.
You could be an environmental scientist like myself.
Yeah, and like
cool.
For you personally, like if you wanted to join the Daily Evergreen, you would go through like an interview process kind of like this. Show them some of your writing skills, and then like if you were an opinion editor, you could go out and find stories about the environmental crises in Pullman or something.
Cool.
How there was that issue there's an issue in downtown Pullman a couple weeks ago about the trees. So there was people that reported on that. So like if you were an environmental reporter, you could go report on that, interview people, and that kind of thing.
That sounds fun. I might look into that, actually.
You should. Honestly, it was a really great experience, and I just ended up, my plate got really full, so I wasn't really able to commit to it as much as I wanted to, so
Fair.
I have been taking a break. But I did a lot of pop culture pieces when I worked there, and a lot of social issue pieces. I think it's really important if you have a platform, even if it's as small as a student-led newspaper, that you have you speak your truth out there. My name is attached to my writing online, so I'd like to make sure that it runs true to what I am actually wanting to report on.
Your reputation is really important in this industry, isn't it?
It is. I think I didn't really ever realize that until now. Like, I don't know. My mom always told me, like, you have to be cool to everybody. Like, you never know who's going to resurface in your life. Like, someone that you had beef with in college might end up being your hiring manager in 10 years, and then you're not going to get the job if you were, like, rude to them in college,
Yeah.
Or if you guys were beefing. So you really have to be cool. Yeah, so...
It's probably a safe way to live right there.
Totally, and also, I feel like it's less stressful if you're rude.
Yeah.
Like, it kind of goes against our nature to be inconsiderate, and that causes a lot of unnecessary stress.
Fair enough.
And it's detrimental to your career.
Right.
So, be cool.
Be cool.
Be cool.
Be cool.
Yeah. But to answer your question, my role as an opinion columnist was kind of going around campus and going around Pullman, finding stories. So I'd find a story. So, for example, I did a piece on thrift shopping around the Palouse, because that's something that I really like to do. So I went out with my editor, which was really fun, and we went to a couple of different thrift stores. There was like Michelle's Closet in downtown Pullman, Revolver in Moscow.
That's a cool one.
Yeah, it was really cool. And we interviewed the people that worked there, took some photos.
Cool.
I wrote a story about their inventory, like, is it worth it to go? Is it cute? Is it overpriced? And that's kind of a more surface level story. But I worked there during the overturning of Roe versus Wade in the Supreme Court. So I did a story about the impact that has on the Palouse region, because so basically when Roe versus Wade was overturned, all abortions became legal in Idaho.
Mm-hmm.
So, we kind of think, from our perspective, we're like, okay, that doesn't really impact us at all, like, as Washingtonians, because we're safe. We're in a blue state that doesn't, like,
Right.
we're allowed to get abortions if we need to.
Right.
But it is completely criminalized in Idaho. So there's a couple cases where women that live in Idaho would come over the border to Planned Parenthood in
Mm-hmm.
Pullman, and it, you could get federally charged if you get caught doing that.
Really? Even though you're not doing it in Idaho?
Because you're an Idaho citizen.
Whoa.
So there's a bunch of loopholes with the overturning of Roe versus Wade.
Uh-huh.
So I was able to get some interviews with a former federal judge and a couple, like, Planned Parenthood expert people, and it was really cool. Like,
I
don't know, it's really fun to, like, obviously it's a very small newspaper, but it's still really fun to put your work out there and
Right.
talk about issues that are real. And part of journalism is marking what's newsworthy now. And, like, we'll look back on that story, like, I'll look back on that in 10 years and be like, oh my God, I was in college when Roe versus Wade was overturned, and I wrote a story about it. Or, like, the Brian Koberger stuff, like,
Right.
the fact that I kind of left the Evergreen right when all of that was at its peak.
Mm-hmm.
But it was, I don't know, it's kind of like a culturally significant thing to do as a journalist, is, like, report on stuff that's going on. I don't know.
And you get to practice a lot of skills that I know that you're tested on in your classes.
Yeah, AP
well.
style. You have to have AP style. There's AP style.
You're an AP style expert now, aren't you?
Well, it took a lot of work. Yeah, I actually worked for the paper before all of the rigorous classes that really instilled AP style into our brains. So it's kind of fun to look back on the work that I did, and, like,
do you notice mistakes?
I noticed so many, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I do not want this online anymore. Like,
that's funny.
Yeah,
Huh.
I was updating my resume not too long ago, and I was looking back on, like, some of the papers I did, and I was like, why is this published? Yeah, I'm like, why is this published? Which is another thing too with journalism and just having an online presence in general. Like, you have to have a clear and clean record online, because everything's going to resurface, which is pressure. Goes back to the social media sorority thing.
Yeah.
Part of my job with that too, actually, which is kind of funny, is I had to follow everyone on Instagram in my sorority, which I guess is normal anyway, but I would have to make sure no one was posting alcohol, no one was posting drugs, no one was posting sex, like, something inappropriate. Like,
you're the Instagram police.
Yeah, pretty much, because you have to make sure that everyone that's in your chapter, just as a Daily Evergreen, everyone who's in your workforce is representing your company and your brand the way that you should.
Wow.
So I think, yeah, I've gained a lot of life experience, sort of, through the two jobs I just told you about. But,
that's cool.
Yeah.
And then, well, just because I know you so well, you're applying all of these skills into, like, one big project that you're currently directing.
Yes.
And that is College Hill.
Yes.
So that show is being produced through the student organization of Cable 8.
Yes.
Through the Edward R. Murrow College of Communications.
Yes.
Could you shed some light on what makes who is Edward R. Murrow? Why is the communications here prestigious, and what is Cable 8?
Totally. Edward R. Murrow went here, and he was a war correspondent during World War II. So he was, like, an incredible journalist. He paved the way for a lot of the way that we do our work. Obviously, he must have donated a lot of money, because
it's named
after him. But he had a lot of incredible contributions to the industry. And it's kind of fun. We have, like, a joke kind of through the Murrow College. He's like, we, like, worship him. Like, he's like, we have, like, a shrine to him everywhere. Like, if you go into Jackson Hall, his photos in like a gold frame.
It's huge.
Yeah, it's like, and
I'll put his picture right here.
No, exactly. Yeah. And he made a lot of contributions to the industry, and he was, I don't know, like, a ton about him other than that, which, I mean, I probably should, because my job is to worship him to the college, but
it's okay.
Yeah, he has, I mean, not him specifically, sort of him, but the legacy that he left has given future students, including myself, a lot of opportunities that I'm sure that he had no idea he was going to give to us, which is cool.
That is cool. Does he have anything to do with Cable 8, or is Cable 8
No.
just a WSU organization?
No, I think Cable 8 started in the 90s, maybe, or earlier, and it actually used to be broadcasted on PBS.
I just recently heard about that.
Yeah. It used to be on PBS. It was on Channel 8 locally, so, like, so my show, so I'm directing the sitcom Cable 8. I'm sorry. Directing the sitcom College Hill, which is affiliated with Cable 8.
Okay.
So every time we would release an episode, it would be on the TV, basically.
Wow.
But
that's cool. But it's not anymore,
it's not anymore. I think, this could be wrong, but I think it had to do with COVID and also our shift from television to the digital age.
Right.
You know, you don't really get a lot of revenue on TV anymore, so...
Yeah. It probably costs a lot to put it on there.
And I'm sure that there was budget cuts with COVID. So
Yeah.
I don't know. But
So Cable 8 is an organization where students, either in the College of Communications or not, can either direct their own shows or be assistants. Is that true?
Yeah.
What's the scope of what kind of shows Cable 8 can produce?
Pretty much anything, to be honest. Like, if you have a concept and you're passionate about it and you have a plan for that concept, you can pitch the idea at the beginning of the semester. Well, it's at the end of the previous semester, and then you pitch it for the next semester. Gotcha. For me, I pitched College Hill over the summer between spring and fall semester.
Okay.
So I made a PowerPoint. I had an idea for a little bit. I wasn't really sure where I was going to go with it, but I knew that I had a solid plan. I knew how many episodes I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. I knew what my characters were going to be. So we had a Zoom call over the summer. I pitched them a thing with a presentation. They asked me a series of questions about my show. How doable is it really? Because, you know, you have a concept that's extravagant and awesome, and then it can kind of
it's not feasible.
Backfire if you don't have money, which we don't because we're college kids.
Right.
We do have a small budget process, which is nice, but realistically, most of the equipment is, you know, like, if you want your own camera, then you have to pay for your own camera,
right.
That kind of thing.
But you could also kind of borrow the equipment that is already owned by the school.
Yes. Yeah, so that's part of my job with Cable 8 too, is I'm the equipment manager. So we have a bunch of giant cameras, so I'll give it to some of the sports shows. That's one of the categories that we have.
Okay.
So they'll bring the giant cameras to the games, do their live sports coverage, put it into a package, post it online. Yeah, so we have sports shows. My show is a sitcom.
There's a cooking show?
There's a cooking show called Can Cooks Cook, which is super fun.
I love it. It's my second favorite show on Cable 8.
It is a really good show. We also have like a thriller show, kind of, like a mystery type thing. Last semester there's a short film that was a horror film. It was really cool.
Right.
Basically, if you have a creative itch that you want to be scratching, Cable 8 is definitely the way to go.
Good to know.
You don't have to be affiliated with the college, like the Monroe College.
And you get credits if you're part of it, correct?
Yeah, so as a director, I get 2 credits, like cross credits, and it's labeled under COM 497.
Okay.
So that's like the class number. And it counts toward your communications electives.
Cool.
But it also could contribute to your general electives if you're in a different major too.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So College Hill, you've already filmed the first 2 episodes, 2 of 4,
and
correct?
Third. We've also filmed the 3rd, yeah.
Well, you're filming the 3rd, aren't you?
That's one I'm editing right now.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But it's not out yet, right? So only 2 of the 4 episodes are out.
Yeah.
And you're currently just finishing up filming of the 3rd, and now you're going to start editing?
Yeah.
So what are the main parts that go into making an episode? Like, how do you know what the shots are going to look like? How do you know, like, who writes the scripts?
Right.
Who does the editing? What's that all look like for you?
So, At first, I didn't really know what it was going to look like. As I said earlier, I had kind of a basic outline of what the episodes were going to be.
Mm-hmm. And
then that was kind of in my head before I had hired anybody to be on my crew or hired anyone for cast.
Okay.
So I hired everybody. It was fun. It was awesome. Interviews are so fun. And so my first episode, I kind of just wrote it. The process was like, I have these characters. I watched a bunch of videos on like how to actually write characters, what dialogue goes with who. Mm-hmm. Like if I was doing, if I was writing you as a character, as Dayton, mm-hmm. what would you say in response to what I'm saying right now as you, not just as a person?
Gotcha.
If that makes sense.
You have to kind of think about what the character would say.
Yeah, so our main character, Caroline, is kind of a bubbly, boy crazy character. Mm-hmm. So what tone of voice would she use when she responds to me asking her a question? Mm. So that's something that I had to consider, and I still have to consider a lot. Because, I mean, you kind of have to apply it to real life. Like, how would I respond to you? You kind of, we've known each other for a long time now, so you kind of can predict how I'm going to respond to what you say.
Right.
In what tone.
Right.
So, kind of applying that. So, keeping that in mind, there's a 3-act structure with sitcoms. You can see it really clearly in sitcoms like Seinfeld, mm-hmm. Where there's like the introduction of what's going to happen, the rising action, and like they kind of fail at whatever's happening, then there's a resolution.
Gotcha.
And everything that's going to happen in the show is basically introduced in the first couple scenes. So like if you mention something really small in the beginning, it has to come back at the end.
Gotcha.
So
there's
like
a lot of callbacks.
Yeah, it's like the recall. So keeping that in mind is really important. But basically, my process was analyzing the characters, figuring out very basic plot points, then sitting down and writing the actual script.
And you do that all by yourself?
Well,
mostly.
So I did at first, and then I started hosting weekly meetings with everybody that we were like, okay, what do we want to see in the next episode? Mm-hmm. What's something that you wish was in, like, what was something that we wish that we saw in the last one?
Gotcha.
What's a conflict that we think is funny that they could overcome? What's something relatable? Because we wanted it to be relatable to college kids, because it's for a college audience. Mm-hmm. And going into it,
college,
and going into it, I was thinking, like, I haven't really seen a lot of content online, or like content in streaming services that really highlights college. So I was like, what better place to highlight college than here?
Yeah, right on.
Yeah, so we would have weekly meetings, talk about the last episode, what sucked, what didn't, what's something that we want to steer away from. And then I would take notes, go back, write a script. Then I would have Christine, who's on my team. She also plays one of our characters, which is really awesome.
Which character does she play?
She plays Eleanor, who's one of the best friends. But it's really fun because I went into it like feeling super stressed, because I was like, oh my god, I have to carry all this weight. Like, this is my show. I'm gonna have to figure it out. Like, the whole plot has to be my idea. Like, but then I'm like, I have these people that are collaborating with me who are as passionate about it as me.
Yeah.
And the ideas that we've come up with are thousands of times better than what I came up with alone. So I think it's really cool.
That's cool.
But yeah, so after we have our meetings, I go home and write the script, and then I send it out to everybody, and I have them make notes on it. Like, here's something that I would have done instead. This idea sucks. This is not funny. How do we make this funnier?
Yeah.
This one joke is getting old, that kind of thing. And then we have another meeting, and that's when we have our table read.
Gotcha.
And kind of before we start the table read process, which is, table reading is basically when the actors go through the lines, going through it exactly how they think it is, and then everyone kind of critiquing them and being like, well, you should deliver it this way.
Gotcha.
But before we do the actual table read, we go over our comments for what we want to change, and then we change it on the spot, and then we go through the table read.
Nice. Seems like a pretty efficient way to go about it.
Yeah, so after the table read happens, Jaden, who's my cinematographer, he's really awesome, we go through a shot list idea, and as I write the script, I have an envision what sets I'm going to use as well.
Okay.
And something that's really cool about Cable 8 is that we don't have to sign any licensing. We don't have to work with the university to rent out the facilities or anything. Like, we can just kind of be around campus.
The whole campus
like
is
we
your,
can, yeah, it's our world. We can use any kind of logos. Like, I could have a can of Coke we use like a 2-liter bottle of Coke in one of the episodes, but if we were to be doing this for profit, we wouldn't be able to do that.
Gotcha. Without proper licensing.
Yeah,
gotcha.
But since it's a student-led organization, doesn't matter. Like, you can just kind of use whatever.
Seems like a lot more creative freedom.
Yeah, which I think is one of the benefits with doing this, because we're able to distribute our work at any cost, and there's really no harm. You know, we're not going to get sued.
Right.
by Coca-Cola, which is nice. Anyway, so after we do the shot list, then we go. I have a filming schedule. That's a new addition. That was something that I have been learning about.
That I
needed. Yeah. It was kind of toward the beginning. It was kind of just like, okay, who's free on Thursday? I'm not either. Oh, I am. Oh, okay. Okay, well,
we can do this scene, but not that scene.
Yeah, so who's free Friday? And then it's like, okay, well, I've learned it's kind of more of a, here's how we're going to do it. If it doesn't work for you, then we'll figure it out. As opposed to, how do you guys want to do it? Kind of thing. Yeah, so after the shot list includes the types of shots we want to do, obviously. So it's like, we want to do a wide shot here, or they do the dialogue, or we want to have a really close-up conversation with the dialogue, that kind of thing.
Cool.
After that, we do the actual filming. We don't do it all in one day, which is good, because that would be horrible. It's a lot. It's a lot of fun when we film. It's definitely a lot more fun than serious sometimes, which can be a little time-consuming.
Yeah.
Just because we're kind of hanging out. Like, some people affiliate it with just hanging out, which is not what I want, but you know, it's college, so it's like,
yeah,
we're not paying these people, we're not getting paid, like, it's okay.
It's part of the learning experience of being a director. Like,
yeah,
that's a skill you have to learn, is being able to manage the goofing off, I guess.
Totally. And it's also truthfully not that deep. Like like we're 20, I'm 20 years old doing this as a side hustle.
Yeah.
Through college, and like, it's just fun, so
no need to get worked up.
Yeah, sometimes I need to just sit down and have fun. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So then after I film, and while we film, I have a couple assistants, and they'll do some of the camera work, audio, lighting, that kind of thing.
Cool.
And then I go home and edit.
Are you the only editor?
The
main editor?
Pretty much edit, yeah. That wasn't really my intention. I'm getting help on the 4th episode, which I'm really happy about. But I wanted to better my skills with Adobe Premiere too, because that's a strong suit that I need.
Yeah.
I do. For episode 4, I want to have everybody involved, just so they can kind of learn some more fundamentals of how to actually edit.
That's nice of you for, like, you know, exposing your team to new skills.
Totally. My main goal with this was to strike a balance between having fun and gaining experience. There's definitely a spectrum that kind of wavers a little bit, depending on the day, but it's pretty fun. Yeah.
Well, cool. College Hill sounds like quite the feat that you're taking on.
Well, you're in it. You're an actor. Yeah.
I am an actor in it, actually. I've been in both episodes so far, and I'll be in the next 2 as well. It has been quite a joy. Yeah, and I knew you before you were this director. So seeing you, you know, put on your, like, director face and, like, being authoritative and bossing people around and, like, you know, like, creating this vision that you had it's really a treat to watch. So thanks for including me and letting me in on the process. Appreciate it. On the topic of Cable 8 and shows, you were on a show previous to this. Last semester, you were an assistant on Wazzu Record Room.
I was, yeah.
Which was a music-oriented, like, talk show, right?
Yeah.
What was it? Can you just briefly, tell me what that was?
Yeah, so Wazzu Record Room was created by the former president of Cable 8, and Colleen Hill, yeah. And Colleen's idea was, as you said, a music talk show. Mm-hmm. But something really cool that was a part of that show was we would host concerts in the Jackson Hall studio. Mm-hmm. I think it was like once a month or so, and we would have local bands from the Palouse music community and people from Spokane. We had a lot of artists come in, and it was so fun. Like, the actual shows were such a good time, and
I had a blast.
Yeah, they were cool, and the music was great, and it was kind of a community building thing to be able to include all these bands that aren't affiliated with Cable 8.
Yeah. Or WSU.
Or WSU, necessarily,
and then they get to perform here on campus in, like, a very large studio, which is one of the perks of Cable 8.
Yeah, so it gave us practice. We did a lot of concert camera footage work, and we got practice with that, and then we got practice with audio. They got practice. The bands got practicing their music, which was cool. But the actual meat of the show was we would pick some topics, talk about them for 40 minutes, and then edit it down to like 13-minute episodes.
Interesting.
Yeah, that was an interesting show to be a part of. I gained a lot of editing experience through that. I was able to kind of put my foot forward a little bit, which I was happy about. So.
You probably learned some, like, fundamental skills. Yeah. Like markers, is that what they're called?
Oh, clackers?
No, when you put the little marks in your clips.
Yeah. Oh, on Premiere?
Yeah, on Premiere. Yeah. What is it called?
Yeah, it's a marker.
A marker, yeah. I've heard that word so many times from you while you're editing. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, the editing process was interesting. It kind of mimicked a documentary style where there was, you're sitting down in a chair talking with someone. There's B-roll going overhead or over top, and I don't know.
That's cool.
It was cool.
So if you were an assistant on a music show, you must have been kind of into music. Is that true?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Do you play any instruments yourself?
You set me up for that one. I do. I played classical violin for 12 years.
12 years?
Yeah. Well, I guess now, if you consider... I'm not as consistent with it anymore. I don't really play when I'm in Pullman, but I guess if you consider me still
playing
an active violinist, I would be like... I don't even know. I can't really do math.
15?
Probably, yeah. I started when I was 6.
So 14 years then?
Yeah. So I played for like 14 years. I was very disciplined with it for a while, which I'm really grateful for because that, it really set me up for success to be disciplined in other
I've seen
areas.
her play. She is incredible.
Oh, thanks.
And it takes discipline to become that incredible.
Well, I'd hope so.
Hard instrument.
I'd hope I was good if I had been investing that much time.
That is quite a long time.
Yeah, but yeah. So when I was 5 years old, I got these violin CDs from my grandma. Mm-hmm. It was like Beethoven suites. There was some Mozart in there. And I heard the classical violin, and I was like, oh my gosh, I love this. Like, this is such a cool instrument. Like, what is this about?
Yeah.
So I told my mom, I was like, Mom. Well, I told both my parents. I was like, guys, I need... Imagine me at 5 years old. I'm like, guys, I need to play the violin right now. And my parents are like, dude, that's quite an investment. Like,
yeah.
That's not just something that you just do on a whim. Like, no. So...
You're going to play it once and never play it again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they're like, we're not paying for you to do that. So, no. But you need to really want to play. So they were like, we'll check back in a year. If you still want to play when you're 6, then go ahead. Mm-hmm. We would totally support you in that. But we need to make sure that you're going to be consistent with it. So I was like, fine, whatever. So 6 rolls around, and I still wanted to play, so I ended up playing on an 8th size violin. And for reference, the sizes go by how small they are compared to a full-size violin. So you've seen the full size, it's just like the regular one. So my 8th size one was like probably like less than a foot long in size because I was so small. Because I was sick. I was a 6-year-old kid.
Wow. That's tiny.
Yeah, it was so small. And it sounded terrible for so long. And my dad actually took lessons with me for the first maybe 2 years.
Really?
I think it was the first year probably, because I was just too young to like retain the information fully from being alone with a teacher, and then like, you know, you write this stuff down and then you're like, well, I don't know what this means. So.
But if you practice together, then you can like kind of talk about it outside of lessons as well.
Yeah. So I would go to the lesson, we would work on it, and then, you know, you look in the journal and it's like, okay, practice the A scale, and then I'm like, okay, well, I don't know which one that is. So then my dad's like, okay, it's this one. Do you remember this from the lesson? So.
That's cool.
It's really cool. I started when I lived at my old house, and my mom banished us to the guest house every time that we played for a couple of years because it was just screechy and horrible. Too much. Yeah.
Fair.
But I ended up applying to a couple schools for music. I didn't end up pursuing that because I wanted to kind of broaden my college experience a little bit more, which I evidently have, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But I kind of wanted to focus more on something that wasn't just music. I wanted music to be more of a supplement to my life as opposed to my entire life because I didn't want to get sick of it and hate it. So it's kind of more of a creative outlet now.
Right on.
Yeah.
Before we continue on the other ways music is a part of your life, I would love to hear about where you get the music for your show, College Hill. Where does it come from? Where do the do-do-do-do-do-do, where does that come from?
Right. So my dad is a voice actor.
Really?
Yeah, so as I said earlier, neither of my parents finished college. My dad worked in the radio business for a long time. Oh my God, KZUU.
What?
So he worked in the radio business for a while. He worked night shifts, like he did like the overnights at the station.
Whoa.
My mom and his friends would make fun of him for being so pale because he would sleep during the day and work at night. Which is where I get it from, all the paleness. So he worked with the radio, and then they decided they wanted to have me. And so he quit his radio job and started doing voice acting. He was able to kind of build some connections through the radio before that. So he's a self-employed voice actor.
Cool.
Now he has a lot of clients. He's definitely had a successful career so far, which is really cool. But something that he does on the side is music. He's a really talented guitar player that's kind of... After I played violin, he kind of quit too, you know, or after he was ready to send me away to go to lessons by myself.
Yeah.
He quit. And he was like, well, I don't want to stop playing music. It's fun. I want to play the guitar. So he plays guitar. He's so good. His singing...
He's really good.
He's really good. His singing voice is beautiful. And something that he and I like to do when I'm home and when I was in high school is to just sing and play music and write lyrics and all that kind of stuff. So he actually wrote the music for my show, which is super fun. It was
That's awesome.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm so grateful that I have a support system like that, where I'm like, just on a whim, I'm like, hey Dad, do you want to write the stinger for my show? And then he responds in like an hour and he's like, how's this? And it's perfect. So I'm just
that is so cool.
It's great. Yeah.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing. When I first found out about that, I thought it was just the coolest thing. To like, I don't know, I always wondered, you know, where the music in your show, like especially in Seinfeld, is such a, as soon as you hear it, you're like, oh, that's Seinfeld. I know it's gonna be funny. It makes it. And so you have that in your show, and it's really awesome you got it from your dad, and he made it. I don't know. I think that's really cool.
Thanks.
Thank you for sharing. Well, before we wrap up, I just want to know, like, as someone who is so busy with 3 majors, being in a sorority, directing your own show, how else does music fit into your life? what kind of I guess the Spotify Wrap just came out.
Yeah.
And we looked at that earlier today, so I guess that I would love it if you shared some of your favorite artists.
Totally.
But how does music help you study and write these episodes?
I feel like music really, I'm always really inspired by movies, and I feel like I have to kind of, before I go into, because I wear a lot of hats, I wear the director hat, I wear the sorority hat.
Yeah.
I wore the journalism hat. I still do technically, but and in order for me to rock that hat, I need to get into character, So, depending on what I'm doing, the genre of music has to fit what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. Like I have to imagine myself as whatever I'm doing in a movie in order to successfully follow through with it.
Could you give us an example?
Yeah. So, in order for me to stay mentally sane with how busy I am, I go to the gym. Mm-hmm. I have not been as consistent with it recently because my time has just been overtaken. But
that's okay.
According to my Spotify Wrapped, I am a rager in the gym. I listen to a lot of Tupac. In the gym, I don't know. I'm really inspired by how you're able to use your platform to speak your truth, like I said earlier, and Tupac really does that. Like he addressed issues that were unspeakable at a dinner table, even when he was around, like in the 80s and 90s, and like I don't know, it's just super cool. And I'll just be in the gym, and I like learning about the oppression that I'm never gonna face, and being able to. It's a privilege to be able to be in my college gym listening to someone who struggled and being able to empathize with them from afar. Mm-hmm. And I feel like music really brings us together in that way. Like same with like when I'm putting on my journalism hat, I'm gonna be listening to jazz because I love jazz. And I can imagine myself in a coffee shop with Miles Davis playing next to me, mm-hmm. And like I can connect with Miles Davis through my headphones as if I were a character,
Yeah.
And just like feeling the people's passion for what they're doing makes me want to be passionate about what I'm doing in that moment, Like,
feeling it through their music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Tupac he was so passionate about oppression. Well, no,
passionate about like sharing that oppression is going on.
Yeah, and that's a reality that he and so many other people of color live.
And still do.
And I'm like listening to this in the gym and I'm pissed, but that makes my lift better. Yeah. And then I'm able to connect with what he's saying and make that a part of my work too. Like,
and use your platform to carry that on.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's kind of fun. I feel like music plays such an important role in my life because it's a creative outlet through violin. I also play guitar a little bit, not as good as my dad. I sing a little bit. It's a creative outlet. It's also a way to connect with all the people that make the music. Mm-hmm. It's a way to connect with yourself, to figure out what kind of music you like. I learned I'm not really into EDM that much. I don't know. I think it definitely plays a very important role in everything.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I wasn't much of a jazz listener before, but having dated you, putting on jazz when I go to do my homework it puts me in the mood.
You like jazz?
I do like jazz. I get so much more done when I'm in the zone, and jazz really helps that. Yeah. And you kind of put me onto that, so thank you.
Thank you.
Right on.
Liking it. Yeah, it's fun to. I don't know. I love getting into character for what I'm about to be doing.
Yeah.
Like, in music definitely helps. Kind of reminds me of those headphone commercials when they like put the headphones in and then they're just like in their jam.
Yeah.
That's how I feel every time.
That reminds me of like a Apple AirPod commercial.
Yeah, or like the Beats by Dre.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sitting down and having this conversation with me.
Of course.
It has been lovely getting to know you and getting to know all the things you're involved in and how you're able to manage them. It's beyond me. You do more than I do. It is truly impressive that you're able to keep your head on straight.
Thank you.
So well done.
It's crooked, but...
All right, well, you've been listening to KZUU 90.7 FM Pullman. We're a broadcast service of the ASWSU. I've been your host, DJ Daisy. This has been What's New Wazzu, Episode 6 with Annabelle Pepin. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next week with a multiple guest interview, so stay tuned. Until then, have a great night. Bye-bye.
Cool.